Join us as we dive into the history, hauntings, and high strangeness of the world to try to better understand the paranormal. I will be your guide. I am paranormal researcher and investigator Eric Freeman Sims. Welcome to the Unseen Paranormal Podcast. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Unseen Paranormal. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for listening to the show and supporting the show. Y'all are amazing, and thank you for jumping right back in after allowing me to take a break for a couple months. And thank you for supporting the Night House. We've had some awesome teams in so far, and the house has been active for them, and the spirits have been wanting to chat with them. So we had K2 Paranormal in, was the very first official team we had in a few weeks ago, and they were amazing. Kelly and her team are just a group of good people. And then last weekend we had Stevie from Truth or Demons podcast and her crew in, and they were a lot of fun as well. And then this weekend we had Beer, Booze, and Boogeymen do a live stream investigation on YouTube, and that was a lot of fun. A little stressful at times to do live streaming, but it was a lot of fun. They're a good group with Damien, Kristen, and Kelly. Unfortunately, two of their members, because of the hurricane, were stuck in Asheville, North Carolina, and still having issues out there with the flooding in the mountains. So y'all send all the good vibes and juju out that way for all those people who are suffering in towns that have been wiped off the map, and you know, people lost their homes and their lives and their livelihoods with their businesses and things. And so send all the good vibes and juju out that way. And you know, we have to be nice to each other and take care of each other because we're all in this together. And even though we all have differences and different opinions, we all want the same things in life, and we have to kind of remind ourselves of that, because things like social media and the internet can kind of get in the way of that and make us think that we're divided in more ways than what we really are. And it makes us forget that it's okay to have your own opinion and have your own thoughts, and to put up boundaries and not let people tell you how you should feel or what you should think about something. But just treat your fellow man kindly today. And like I said, send a little extra prayers, juju vibes, whatever you do, to all the people that have been affected by Hurricane Helene. And unfortunately, we got some more rain and stuff coming, it looks like, with some other hurricanes. So also, you know, just do something nice for me today, whether it's just to say hi or open the door, hold the door open for somebody going in the gas station or the grocery store or something. You know, you never know what that small gesture might do for that person in their life, and it'll make you feel better too. About, you know, it's always good to do something good for somebody else. And so, yeah, anyway, that's enough of my ramblings for today. We're going to bring you Dr. Kris Sumner and Miranda Young. Y'all can find all their links in the show notes to everything they got going on. The best way to get a hold of them if you want to do one of the tours is to go to historyhighwayshaunts.com, and they have everything they have going on. They have on that website. All right, without further ado, sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Hey, Dr. Kris and Miranda, welcome back to the show. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having us, Eric. We appreciate it.
Yeah, glad to be here.
Yeah, it's always a pleasure. I always love talking to both of y'all and being on your show, Miranda, and chatting not too long ago. And congratulations on Haunted Discovery. I'm a Haunted Discovery alumni as well. So my episode just came out a couple weeks ago, and y'all are coming out as of us recording in a couple of days. So that'll be awesome for the jail.
Yeah, thank you, and congrats on yours as well. We've been trying to watch it on Sling, and so we're trying to catch up now on our viewing of the episodes. But so far they've been great.
Yeah,
and they've just been wonderful to work with. I mean, you know, just a class act team and just great investigators. So we can't wait to see what they do here at the jail.
Yeah, I'm glad to call them friends. They're awesome people and fun to just hang out with. Not even just take the paranormal out of it. They're just good people in general.
Yeah.
And the whole crew.
I was about to say, everything from the camera guys to the sound people to, everybody involved. It's just a class act group of people.
Yeah. But yeah, so you have that going on with the jail. What else is new with the jail and the paranormal and the ghosties at the jail?
Well, actually, we're rolling into October, so we're extremely busy. We've got obviously our paranormal investigations. We've got day tours. We've got guided ghost hunts. We've got flashlight tours throughout the jail as well. So, the feedback that we've gotten from our flashlight tours and from our ghost hunts and paranormal investigations have been great. The evidence that we've captured, that other people have captured, our jail still loves to talk.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, we're coming up on our 3rd year anniversary here. I guess it'd be September 4th will be the 3 years that we've been open there at the jail. And so it's been cool. We've kind of had milestones every year of really cool things that we've been able to accomplish by either expanding and adding rugby, adding different tours to the mix, doing more guided tours. It's been nice to kind of have these elements that we've been able to add. And so hopefully here soon we'll be going to on our day tours, a more guided format instead of the self-guided format that we've got.
Yeah.
And expanding, opening the bank building. That's just been something that's taken a minute with the logistics and everything. But yeah, lots of cool things going on there.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, for anybody that doesn't know, that here's the cat in the background. That's Celly. She's the famous cat. If you go online, you'll see her ghost videos where the ghosts interact with her as well. So she's got to get on her 15 minutes of fame here.
Yes, Celly the jail cat. She definitely has done her part on this employee team. Believe me, if you go to our website, you'll see that she's head of guest relations, and she takes her role very seriously.
She loves going on the tours with people, and even some of the paranormal investigation teams will ask if they can take her out for a few rounds whenever they're doing their investigations and see if she brings any results.
That's awesome. But yeah, some of the video, I mean, stuff that y'all caught at night because of her. And maybe if you hadn't had her around the jail, they might not have interacted, like especially the one where they like hold the door open for her to go into the gift shop.
Yes, that was an amazing piece of footage that we can't explain or debunk really. It was captured in our gift shop, and we keep the door typically closed. It's about 250-pound steel door, and the security camera at 5 a.m. one Thursday morning captured it opening and something letting Celly in, and we think it's because she really likes that room. She likes to go and lay on the t-shirts and the sweatshirts and stuff, and so we think the spirits were like, here you go, Celly, you wanted to go in, here you go.
If I remember correctly, isn't that door spring loaded too?
It is to some extent,
okay.
Yeah, to some extent. We have to actually prop it open to keep the door open because it automatically closes. And that's one of the things I always show on my After Dark tours and also with the investigations. I like to let the teams try it because it's one thing to see it on video, but when you actually see that this steel door, it was a former cell door.
Yeah.
So there's no seam. I mean, these doors were meant to be closed and locked. So even if Celly was a very large cat, like a Maine Coon or something, and she could not get her claws or her feet under the door or to the side of the door to pull it open.
Right.
So we like to let the teams try that and look at that whenever they come in.
Yeah. And she'd have to have some type of superhuman strength because she's a 15-pound cat. Like I said, that's a 250-pound steel door. So it'd be very difficult for her to get that open. So that's a great piece of footage. There's been several that we've captured where she's been involved in it. About 2 weeks ago, we captured the footsteps. Celly and I were the only two beings in the jail at the time. This was during the day, and there were some very loud footsteps bamming overhead, and she sensed them too. She jumped up on the display case and she's looking up at the ceiling, trying to figure it out. So, like I said, our jail has been extremely active.
Yeah. I mean, we've done multiple live streams from there. We did a live stream back on August 11th, which would have been the anniversary of Sheriff Richard Ellis's death. And we did a dueling tripwire session there where I was outside and Kris was inside. So that was really cool, because we were actually getting hits on both of the tripwires that we were not getting. I mean, they were in response to the questions.
I saw an awesome piece of evidence that y'all posted from somebody with a thermal camera.
Yes, that was on one of our guided ghost hunts, and those have become very popular because most of those are novices who have never investigated before. So they're 3-hour guided ghost hunts. And we were up on the second floor where one of the shadow figures is commonly seen there in room 2. And so we were upstairs, and one of the girls was using, there was 3 of us up there, or excuse me, 4, 3 counting me, and they saw something there just blip real quickly on the thermal, and the girl had the presence of mind to snap it, do a snapshot of it.
Yeah.
And when she showed me, I mean, it was incredible. We were all just kind of gathered around, and that's the room where someone is often seen sitting rocking on the bunk in that room.
Yeah, that's amazing to catch the thermal, and it I mean, it looks just like a person there on the thermal. It's crazy. Yeah,
it does. And, you know, we can honestly say that there's nothing in there that's reflective. So it's not like they're from across the hall. And you can see a great outline of it. So it was a really cool piece of evidence, and it kind of validates again what we've seen and what teams have seen.
Yeah.
And to know that that is the area, that's specifically the area where people have seen stuff.
Yeah, it's the same room that we caught the shadow figure on the live. I was the only person in the building. Christy was moderating it on StreamYard from Virginia, and we had the tripwire set up there and also a K2 meter. And while we were doing the session, about 50 people saw this shadow come past that room and basically just walk up right in front of me and stand there.
Wow.
And it was pretty wild. So it's really cool to be able to hear about these experiences, experience them ourselves, and then also be able to take the evidence that everyone is capturing and look at the similarities that people are experiencing in these areas.
Yeah, that's what I'm excited for most, to get teams to come in the night house, because we've investigated a little bit. But we have stuff happen all the time, like y'all do, just randomly while you're there. You don't have to be investigating or anything, you know, they're just there anyway. So, I'm definitely excited to have teams in, multiple teams like y'all have had, to validate that for yourself, to say, well, hey, I've heard that, or I've seen that, or, you know, and then for somebody else to capture it, it's definitely validating, especially when you're in there by yourself, you know, and hear stuff and see stuff. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that with the night house. But so y'all have also taken on, so the jail is awesome. I need to come back out there soon. We had a blast last time. And it's just an incredible place, an incredible history. And like you said, stuff happens all the time, and they want to tell their story and they want to share. But y'all have recently taken on Historic Rugby, as if you weren't busy enough with the jail, like we were talking about. But Rugby After Dark. So let's talk about, because Rugby is it's a little village of like Victorian style houses and buildings, and it's kind of unique in that it survived from the 1880s until now, and it's still a thriving little community. It's not just like a history village. People actually live there. So for people that don't know, what is Rugby, more than I just kind of described it?
Well, Rugby, to your point, Rugby it was built as a Christian socialist community. It was built in 1880 by a gentleman by the name of Thomas Hughes, or was founded in 1880 by a gentleman named Thomas Hughes, who was an author. He was a British author, and basically what he wanted was essentially a safe haven for the second sons of England, those who were born into gentry, but that were the second born, and so the second born didn't get any riches, they didn't get any titles. They were highly educated, but the inheritance went to the firstborn son, not the secondborn. So they just essentially got a small allowance. Anyway, Thomas Hughes came over in 1880. He brought a lot of the second sons with him who wanted to come to America. But the dream was that you were going to become laborers. And so they had this thriving community where in its heyday between 1883 and 1885, we had about 450 colonists in the colony of Rugby at the time. But as I said, these were gentlemen who were born into gentry. They're not suited for this environment. They're not suited for hard labor. That's not what they wanted to do. They wanted to have drama societies and literary clubs. And so while they had about 68 structures that were built, houses, schoolhouse, commissary, church, the library, it just really wasn't a great population for the dream of Rugby to survive. So really Rugby was encompassed between the years of 1880 and 1890. After that, it kind of went into disrepair a little bit. And then it revived again in 1966 with a gentleman by the name of Brian Stagg. He really encompassed the dream of Rugby as well. And he wanted to his former glory. So he formed Historic Rugby Incorporated, which is still the nonprofit that oversees rugby today. And he started to rebuild some of the houses in the exact same style as they were before. So currently, of the 68 original structures, there are 14 that are still surviving. Some of them are privately owned. Some of them are owned by Historic Rugby Incorporated. And so what we did last year is we formed a partnership with Historic Rugby Incorporated, and we run all of their after dark programming. So lantern tours, we have 2 of those. We do guided ghost hunts as well as paranormal investigations. And it's a great way for us to contribute to the historic preservation of rugby, because we split the ticket cost with rugby.
Yeah.
So every ticket sold, half goes to rugby and half comes to us. And it's a great partnership. We get access to the houses that Historic Rugby Incorporated own. And so they've been very generous with allowing us to have access to pretty much anything that we want or need out there.
Yeah, and I think one of the cool things is they've been very guarded from what I've seen with the paranormal stuff, which I think is great. The only show I've ever seen in there was, I think, Ghost Hunters did an episode in one of the private homes.
Not that we're aware of.
I don't think Ghost Hunters has been there now.
Okay.
No, they've only had a few teams, like I think like Stones River came, and it's really only been recently that they've been open. Now they'll talk about their haunted history and their occurrences that happens, but it wasn't really until we sat down and had a meeting with them back last year, and this was kind of about a partnership that took about 6 months to really get together. And they met with us. They came to the jail. They took several tours to see how we do things here. They really liked what they saw. And it really, there took several meetings of sitting down and coming up with what both of our goals were, to utilize this for preservation and restoration, and then also for opening it up to a different group of people that might not visit rugby because they're into the paranormal. And so they have just been, greeted us with open arms, everyone from the villagers who live there to the people who work at rugby. And we've seen them really open up to the fact, because we can't make a trip there to rugby without sitting down with Chrissy, the head of housekeeping there, or Gerald that's over maintenance, or even Annie that's, the operations manager, and have them tell us about occurrences that they experience on a daily basis over there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And to go back to your point, Eric, they are guarded because this is living history.
Yeah.
There are residents that live there, like Miranda says, but, you can't replace a house from the 1880s. You can't replace a library from the 1880s that still has all of the original books in it. Yeah. So they are very much guarded. We had to really show them that, we are very much against the quote unquote demon chasers. Yeah. And unfortunately what is very prevalent on YouTube and on paranormal media right now. And so we had to really walk them back and say, this is not what we do. This is not what we're about. And we're not going to allow people in that do that. Yeah. So we have a very stringent policy on teams and what they can say and what they can investigate for. And demons is not one of them. And so when they realized that we were very staunch in that stance, they absolutely wanted to partner with us. And to Miranda's point, it's been a great partnership. So while, it is quote unquote accessible, it is very guarded. Yeah. They do have patrols, and there is no trespassing. Only sanctioned paranormal investigations are allowed now.
And you have to realize as well that this is a different situation than the jail or than a hospital, or even, your house there in Kentucky. This is a living village. And so because it's a living village, and because they have people coming on a daily basis who are not paranormal investigators, or maybe even not into the paranormal side of things. You can't have somebody sitting in one of the locations doing an unsanctioned seance in one of the lodging rooms while you've got, grandma and grandpa there, just there for a leisurely weekend. So this has been one of those things that's really kind of not only made it accessible to people in the paranormal community, but also sort of helped to put a control on trying to knock out some of these unsanctioned investigations that they're having there.
Mhm.
Yeah. I wish people just follow the rules because like you're saying, there really is a problem with people just trying to go to these places and do whatever they want. You know,
Right.
I see there's a problem now with Airbnbs with people trying to do that.
Yes.
And filming and things. And, you know, that's against the rules of Airbnb and Verbo and all of them, you know, to come in and do that to somebody's house and they don't know what you're doing in their property, you know? So, it's unfortunate that people do things like that and try to trespass and sneak and all that stuff. But unfortunately it's a fact of life.
Yeah. But I mean, that being said, we do have like I said, the paranormal investigators who have come in and even us ourselves have experienced some amazing things at Rugby. You know, all of the houses and buildings that we get access to, it's incredible. The amount of activity, disembodied voices, seeing apparitions, the tripwire, the REM pod, the periscope, these things are all, actively being hit upon, and it's pretty amazing to see.
Yeah, and it's throughout the entire village.
Yeah,
that's what's cool about it, is you have all these different buildings that have all these different stories and all these different spirits that are connected with them, just on our tours alone. And you know, with our tours, they're not active. The lantern tours are not active ghost hunt sessions, but we do little sessions on each one. And I don't think we've had hardly a single tour that has not had something, you know, interesting. The spirits there, they like the people coming in and communicating, and the responses they're timely and they are consistent, with the exception of the theater, which is a newer building there. They're consistent with the time frame we're finding during the original colonist time.
Yeah. Do you think that, because it doesn't seem like, you know, there's some tragedy or a bunch of people died there or anything like that. So do you think it's just because it was a place that people wanted to be, and so that maybe they're coming back to now? Or
yeah, and I mean, we do have tragic history in that timeline between the 1880 and 80. I mean, we had typhoid fever that hit in 1881, so we do have some deaths from that. Murder suicides. We've had, you know, in 1930 there was a young kid who was killed there, Hiram Lowhorn, and we think his apparition is very playful. He's a spirit that is very energetic. He moves from house to house. We captured a great picture of him. One of our guests did, and that we show on the tours. And I think Haunted Discoveries had some interactions with him as well. And so we had some tragedy in our past, but to your point, I think that Rugby is it was such a welcoming and encompassing location that even when you drive up to it, it's a different feel. You know, I can't really explain it. It's just a different feel. It's kind of like stepping back in time, but someplace that, you know, everybody seems to be jovial. Everybody seems to be welcoming. You know, not much strife or negativity throughout. And it's just one of these places that it's right in the middle of the Big South Fork. So you have all this nature around it as well. And it's just, I think, just kind of a mecca of energy, the best way I can describe it.
Yeah. It's cool to have that many historic buildings, you know, still around and that history. That's pretty neat. Especially because those buildings they're not brick. Most of them are wooden, you know, pine. Yeah. And so, you know, a lot of that stuff. So for somebody to come in and preserve that's pretty awesome as well in that history. And
agreed.
So so if he came in and in the 60s, you said the guy came in and kind of saved the place, were there private people still living there, or did they sell those houses to the private people that live there now, or how did that happen?
Yeah, so it never really became a ghost town.
Okay.
You know, really after 1900, a lot of the original colonists moved on to other places. You did have a handful, you know, the Waldens, who were the general managers there. They kind of carried that on, and you had some people who lived in some of those homes that essentially kept them up. And so it's interesting because Brian was really young whenever he got enamored with rugby and founded his cause of the Historic Rugby Restoration Association there. He was 16 years old.
Wow.
And so that was his goal and essentially his legacy, that where he got a group of people together and was able to get historic rugby put on the National Historic Registry and get it to what it was today, even though there is only that essentially 10 to 20 year time span of all the things that happened with the colonists. Really, it's a pretty amazing story when you think about how it's still successful today.
Yeah.
And then being here in the middle of the Appalachian Mountains, a British community surrounded with little Appalachian homesteads. It's pretty fascinating.
Yeah. Yeah. And just the idea of it, like you were saying, trying to help people. And I could see to where, like I was saying, some of the spirits who resided there, even though they may have moved on in life, when they died, maybe wanting to come back there because that was some of the happiest moments of their life. And, they enjoyed being there. And kind of got out of their situation in England, whether, even though they were, to do, they're kind of just thrown out on their butts and like, here you go,
their families were well to do, absolutely. So they would come over here with just a small allowance or inheritance. But for example, Madam Margaret Hughes, she was the mother of Thomas Hughes, the founder, and she came over at the age of 83 and to support her son in 1881. And so she knew that this was going to be her last stop. She knew she was going to die here. She'd probably never go back to England. So she packed up all her stuff, sailed across the ocean, and came over here. And she lived till the age of 90. She died in Rugby. She is the only member of the Hughes family that's buried in the Laureldale Cemetery there in Rugby. And so I think that because she gave up all of that and she was happy there at Rugby, I think that's why we have a very strong connection with her presence. I think she's in several of the houses there, and that's just one example, so it's just a very unique location.
And it sounds like a lot of intelligent haunting.
Very much so. Yeah, very much so. I can honestly say I think there is probably more intelligent. I'd almost say 90% intelligent, more so than residual.
Wow.
I think the only residual that I think we could probably pinpoint is the snoring guy in Kingstone Lisle and horse and carriage and some footsteps. And even those footsteps may be intelligent, but very intelligent responses, audible responses, even on our lantern tours. Like Miranda said, we'll do a small session on our lantern tours, and it is common to get disembodied voices to the point where I actually had one guy on one of our lantern tours get up and bolt out of the schoolhouse because this little girl's voice just popped up right beside him, and he was gone.
Wow.
So audible voices, it's and basically any type of paranormal equipment seems to be active in those buildings.
I mean, and it's and that's the really cool thing about that is it does seem to be mostly intelligent. There are some areas that you may have some activity that's not quite related to the colonists at the time, but you would have that in a village, because it's you had several different families and households that lived in those houses. So it's really great to watch how it's grown with the activity and that the activity has gotten more comfortable with us, knowing we're coming in and talking to it, because they didn't for so long.
It didn't have a voice. Nobody was in there trying to talk to them, and probably a lot of people scared of them. I mean, even people that lived there kind of scared of that phenomenon because don't know. But that's pretty awesome to get 90% is intelligent stuff, because usually it's y'all know the reverse. Usually it's 90% residual, and you got that little 10% chance to get intelligent stuff going on. But
and it's interesting. I think one of the things that I find to be very fascinating is, Rugby was really good at documenting their existence. They had, Emily Hughes, Thomas Hughes's niece, was a wonderful photographer. So the photos that we show on the tours and the photos that are throughout there are legit photos that were taken there during the 1880s by
Wow.
Emily Hughes and other people that were involved. Also, the letters and the diaries and journals, and then just Rugby had 2 newspapers that you can go back and you can read all of that, so you can really get a good picture of what life was like during that time. And according to what some of the current colonists tell us, is that when you look at some of the different journals, they were reporting some odd activity back during the 1880s and 1890s there. So they were reporting seeing things. We're right there on the timeline shift, so we're in the Eastern Central Time Zone, and it's just an interesting place for different types of supernatural phenomena.
Yeah. So why did they pick that particular spot? Because it is kind of out in the middle of nowhere, and like you said, kind of in this foresty area with the river and all that.
It is. So in 1877, there's a gentleman by the name of Charles Smith, or Franklin W. Smith, and he was head of what was called the Board of Aid to Land Ownership. And the U.S. was in a recession at that time, and so he was good friends with the folks that ran the Southern Railroad, and so they wanted a place where they could bring the laborers down from Boston. So he bought 60,000 acres on the Cumberland Plateau for a variety of reasons. One, he thought that the farming would be good there. He also was trying to convince the railroad to bring a spur into Rugby from the line that went down to Atlanta, from Cincinnati to Atlanta. So he was pretty confident that that was going to happen. The land was cheap, and so he knew he could bring the laborers from Boston down to work the land. And so there was, and also he was also going to tout the medicinal purposes or the medicinal attributes of the mountains and the water, because there's a big river that runs there. So he had the Tabard Inn built. The idea was that these summer visitors could come and stay the summer for the medicinal remedies of the water and the mountains. But by 1879, the recession is over. He's stuck with the 60,000 acres. So coincidentally, he meets Thomas Hughes, and Thomas Hughes said, well, I'll take it over for you. And so since he already had several structures built, the Tabard Inn being one of them, it just kind of fit into what Thomas Hughes was looking to do with his second son's colony.
Yeah. Was there any other towns, like major towns? Because I know Rugby's not far from y'all. I mean, from Huntsville, right. And then in Oneida, which Oneida is kind of like the bigger town up there.
It is.
So was like Oneida and Huntsville around then, or were they?
They were. So, so this would have been in 1880 when this was established. Scott County was founded there in 1849. And Rugby essentially straddles both part of Scott and part of Morgan County. And so the largest town, at that point in time when Rugby was being established, a lot of these little areas that are nothing now. I mean, not even a stop sign in some of these areas. Yeah. They had 2,000 and 3,000 people that were living in these areas. So the current community of Elgin, which is 7 miles, I think at that time it was called either Sedgwick or Sagebrush. I can't remember. But at that time, there was a train station there. There was also, it was very big for mining and lumber. And so that was actually a really big community. So it was 7 miles from Rugby. Plus you had all of these other little areas that were other communities like Allard, Armathwaite. They were larger at the time. Those were German communities. And so you had all of these little small ethnic communities that were popping up not far. But when you look at Scott County as a whole at that point in time, a lot of the areas they were booming towns at that point. So it was only 7 miles from what at the time would have been a big town.
So they weren't just kind of out in the middle of nowhere without any kind of support or anything. I mean, they kind of were, because 7 miles back then was a long way.
Yeah, 7 miles. Yeah, take a
well, yeah. I mean, so as far as like they were isolated, especially because some of the letters that Emily Hughes writes, she would take trips, especially up to Cincinnati during her time when she was here from 1881 to 1887. they would take those trips. They would also go like down to Texas and some of these larger areas. That's where they would have to go to get clothing and to get some of the amenities that I guess they were used to. But you could say it's isolated for what they were able to have access to.
Yeah.
But as far as being just completely off and out of nowhere, again, 7 miles, give or take would have been your closest.
Yeah. 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 It's a fascinating community. I love the Victorian look anyway. We had looked at several Victorian houses, but beautiful, just the architecture. And then also the time, I guess it's one of those times that we probably romanticize now. It probably wasn't as romantic as we make it seem with, the spiritualists and all that stuff. But you had Houdini and stuff back then. You had the spiritualists doing table tippings and, ectoplasm, which is all, we know it's all BS now, but, it was, I don't know, it kind of kicked off the paranormal thing, I guess, in a way.
It did. And, the Victorians were so fascinated by the occult and spiritualism. It was, and the supernatural. It was something that death was a common thing. It was a daily thing for folks there at that time. And they kind of romanticized it. And it became sort of a fantasy of theirs with the occult and supernatural.
Yeah. Yeah. In that era, like I said, I'm sure we romanticize it like we do other eras. So you mentioned the bank earlier. First, how can people book investigations and tours for Historic Rugby?
Yeah, so the best way to find that, you can go and look up Historic Rugby After Dark on Facebook, or look it up online. But the best way to find and book is to go visit historyhighwayshaunts.com. And once you go to that page, you can choose whether you want to go to Rugby's site or go to the jails. We've got everything set up to where it's basically contactless and easy. We've got our frequently asked questions if people want to get more information. And then we have our online booking calendar for all of our tours that we have, our guided ghost hunts, as well as our private investigations.
So you had mentioned the bank earlier. So what are your plans with the bank? Now, this is in Huntsville, not far from the jail. So what? Yeah,
go ahead.
I was just going to say, what are y'all's plans with the bank?
Yeah, so the bank is literally about 100 feet from the jail, and it's built in the same time frame. So the jail was built in 1904, the bank was built in 1909, and up until COVID, it was operating as the First National Bank building. It started as a bank. It transitioned into during the Depression. It transitioned into a clinic, a medical clinic, and then in the 1960s, it transitioned back into a bank. But long story short, so what we're going to do is we're going to set up some museum displays in that building, but primarily it's going to be our gift shop and our point of sale system. So basically a true ticketing office, if you will. Yeah. And so that's going to allow us to free up 2 different rooms in the jail. So that'll open up a little bit more space for paranormal investigators. And at that point, we will be off-site from the investigations. You'll still have to, we'll still have to monitor you with a walkie-talkie, but otherwise we won't be physically on site. We'll be about 100 feet away in the bank building. But it's basically going to become our point of operations is what we're hoping to do.
That's pretty cool. Still got the big original vault in there.
Oh, it does. It does. All the original safety deposit. Yeah, the marble safety deposit boxes and such. So
the actual teller cages.
Yeah,
it's really pretty.
And some carpet that's suspicious in some places, but we don't know how some of the carpet is. But it looks kind of interesting. But no, we've already got display cases that we've earmarked for over there. We've got displays that we're going to be putting up. Right now it's just really a matter of getting our internet connected. It's kind of been a hassle the last couple of weeks trying to work with them, and they're trying to piecemeal together some stuff. But otherwise, we're really excited about it. It's going to be a great addition. It's going to allow us to do some different things. It's going to allow us to start our walks from a different location and tell you the history of that building as well as the history of Huntsville. So we're really excited about it. We're really blessed that the town of Huntsville, the mayor and the aldermen unanimously agreed that we've done such a great job with the bank or the jail that they allowed us to have the bank building. So we're really grateful for for that.
That's awesome. Yeah, I was gonna ask if y'all were gonna do some like walks since you have multiple buildings now and kind of do a ghost walk.
Yeah, we've actually been doing a ghost walk. This will be our third year doing it. We don't offer it year round just because our flashlight tours are so popular.
Yeah.
But we offer it usually in the summer. We offer it or certain times during the summer. We offer it during the spooky season, and then we offer it at Christmas. We actually won an award last year for it for the Christmas one we do. And so it's a 45-minute walk around town talking about the history and the haunts there. And then it ends with about an hour and 15-minute flashlight tour of the jail.
Yeah, that's awesome. Anything special coming up for October this year?
Well, basically just our walks, our lantern tours, our paranormal investigations. Those are extremely popular. We already have several of those booked, both at the jail and at Rugby. Rugby does some programming of their own that they've been doing for several years. So we're going to kind of go with ours while they're simultaneously doing theirs also.
Yeah.
So a lot of things will be happening at Rugby during October, but also the jail. Just it's never ending. But
pretty much at least every Friday through Sunday, there's something going on. And again, our calendar, we've got it completely open to where you basically pick your adventure if you want: flashlight, guided ghost hunt, lantern, what have you. And then the dates that we have available are there, and you book them. And we might open, we've talked about extending hours in September on some of the investigations, extending it by an hour. We've got to get that information put out, decide for sure. And we may extend the investigations by an hour, or we may do a Thursday night, add that during spooky season. But we'll get all of that information put out there just to create as many options as possible for people that want to do something cool.
Yeah. So have y'all been able to actually go investigate other places? I know y'all been really busy because, of course, Miranda, you got Ghost Biker, and Dr. Kris, you got Soul Sisters. Have y'all been able to do anything like that this year? It's been a while since I talked to you.
It's been a little tough. Miranda will have her season coming up in October. She was real smart. She put everything, condensed it into 1 month. Unfortunately, Soul Sisters has not had an opportunity to do any investigations for about a year, but I am working on our next video, which will detail our investigation of hospital on College Hill.
Awesome. Yeah, I miss your videos. The videos are awesome.
I know. Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
So thank you for that. I appreciate it. But we're working diligently on trying to get some stuff out there.
Well, I mean, there's only two of you. You need to clone yourselves.
Yeah.
I mean, with all the stuff going on between Rugby and the jail, and
we haven't even talked about life,
Yeah. Y'all have had lots of things going on in life too, with buying new houses and things like that as well in the area and all that. Yeah. So lots of things going on. But I appreciate y'all coming on and talking. It's been a while, so it's nice to get to chat. Yeah,
Eric, thank you so much for having us. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, my pleasure. All right, everybody, y'all stay safe out there. We'll see you next time. Have a good day. Thank you for listening to The Unseen Paranormal. Join me next Wednesday with a brand new guest, and please rate, review, share, and subscribe on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you're listening right now. This helps more people discover the show. You can connect with me over on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or join us in the Unseen Paranormal Lounge group on Facebook. Until next time, remember, some of the scariest things are unseen. You have come to the end of the line. Whoa. I can feel you as you pass the other side.